Everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reselling Rhythms. I'm Adam with Adam's Exploits. My show is normally live every Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern. We discuss reselling, and what I do is I bring in various resellers and have them discuss how they do reselling to educate my viewers and myself. Today we have a very special guest from down south. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let the chat fill in a little bit, guys. I know we're in a little bit of a lag here, so the notices apparently didn't go out, so I did set it up so the notices would go out, but apparently YouTube is a little wonky today and the notices haven't gone out. So I'm going to wait for a minute or two and see if anybody comes into the chat, and I'll see if the notices, well, I'm going to look on my phone and see if the notices went out for the live stream. So we'll see that, and then we'll get started momentarily. Okay, so the notice just went out about a minute ago, guys, so it looks like the chat will start filling in. So I'm going to give it about another minute, and hopefully some people will fill into the chat. We'll say hello, and we'll get started. Looks like we have a few people in the chat. So, guys, if you're in the chat, please say hello. And I'm sure my moderators will be joining me shortly. We'll have our trivia expert, Miss Michelle, and we'll see who else comes into the chat. So we'll get started momentarily. So, okay, I see there's Miss Carol. That's the Maggie Doodle. Way yonder picker. Great, guys. Thanks for joining us. So I'll give about another 30 seconds, guys, and we'll get started. Again, our guest, if you read the description, is Thom, the Queen City Picker. Thom is down south in the Charlotte area, and they'll discuss the reselling, and we'll do a little bit about himself and how he got into reselling, why he got into reselling, what he looks for, and we'll just basically discuss general reselling and see if we can get some great tips and bolos from Thom, so to speak. So looks like we have at least about a dozen or so people in the chat, guys. So we might as well get started. Say hello to Miss Maggie Doodle, and I said hello to Carol, Miss Bargain Shopping, Wayan Picker, and Layla Chick. Okay, guys, so we'll get started. Let me go over and to Mr. Thom, and there he is. Thom, why don't you introduce yourself to people that do not know you? And like I said, we discussed a little bit of background of who you are and how you got into reselling, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm Thom. I'm the Queen City Picker. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is the Queen City. A lot of people
Therefore, the Queen City Picker.
That's right, because it's named after Queen Charlotte. Her husband George is the one that gave the United States away. Let's see. I've been, I should have scripted this. I've been reselling now for about, well, I'm a part-time reseller. I've been reselling now for probably since about 98. I had a eBay account, and I had about 400 comments on it, and it got corrupted somehow or another. And there was a lot of problems, so I just started all over again. So I started back when it was nothing but auctions, which was, fun. And you went to the mailbox every day in high hopes of having checks in there or money orders or sometimes cash. I worked for a family business all my life. And then back when the economy collapsed in the real estate market, back in 2005, 2006, our business was hit hard, and I just went into retirement. And so I started trying to get more into reselling, going to storage auctions and that type of thing. And, eBay, the internet was still in really a young child back then. I remember when I went from AOL to high speed,
Went from dial-up to high speed internet.
Yeah, and I actually, I don't know whether any of y'all know, but AOL finally shut down its mail servers about a year or so ago, and I was just kind of upset because I was losing my AOL
email address
because that was the first one I had.
Okay.
That was the very first.
I had a Hotmail was my first one.
Yeah. So I mean, I enjoy selling. Um, where you want me to go from here?
Just a little more on your background. You've always lived down south. I know you said something. You
Okay.
moved in South Carolina a couple of times. I think originally you were from North Carolina. Is that what you said?
No, I lived in South Carolina until 1994 when I got married. And if you're not familiar with the way it is up here, Charlotte is very business.
I know it's a big corporate center. I'm friendly with
Right,
Jason and Karin, Pro Sales and Karin.
right. And Rock Hill is like one of the bedroom communities.
Okay.
Rock Hill and
That's
Lancaster
a better community for Charlotte.
for Charlotte.
Okay.
And like Chick Picker was talking about this morning, her daughter lives in Huntersville. That's a bedroom community on the north side of Charlotte, which Charlotte is like all big cities. It just keeps expanding and expanding.
Right.
And you don't know when you've got left South Carolina. Honestly, you won't know that you've left South Carolina if you didn't have a sign up there that says, "Welcome to North Carolina." But my wife worked for the hospital, and it was easier for me to drive to Rock Hill than it was for her to drive to Charlotte.
Right.
So I made the change and moved to Charlotte. But I am a South Carolina boy. I lived in Charleston, South Carolina until I was 13. And then we moved to Rock Hill because of my dad's job. And and I've always lived up here. I've never lived anyplace else other than those two places.
Okay. So did you go to school locally, or did you went right into?
I went to a local technical college.
Okay.
For drafting and that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice.
My family had a land surveying company, and
that was the common business you were talking about, the land survey.
Yeah, I worked out on field crews when I was young, and then I did drafting, for survey plats, and then when I retired from the company, I was the office manager.
Right.
So when I hear people freaking out because eBay's making a little change or the postal service has gone up 4 cents or stuff like that,
Of course, that's
I'm like, you don't have any idea.
Yeah.
We have 8 crews. We have 3 people lay out, and all those crews are scheduled for some specific job. You learn to have to just get over it, because if you don't, you're going to stroke yourself out.
It was funny, just to touch on that momentarily. I was talking to somebody and a couple of people in the, I think, Messenger or something, and talk about Gary Vee. A lot of people are big advocates of Gary Vee, and I like Gary Vee. It's just that he's not suitable for work, and some of the language he uses kind of aggravates me a little bit. Believe me, I don't have virgin ears, but I mean, I try, especially on the internet, I try to be, keep this channel G-rated.
Right.
But anyway, and I know Gary Vee a little bit. I dated someone for a long period of time up in northern New Jersey, and that's where Gary kind of got started with his with YouTube, actually, because his father owned a liquor store and a wine shop. They got heavily into wines, and Gary used to do like a YouTube video where he would taste wines, and he would become like kind of goofy Gary. But back then he was G-rated, or at least PG-rated. Now he's kind of R-rated. But basically Gary said, basically what you just said, get over it. It's done. Move on. But then he peppered some, vulgarity at the end of it. But it's.
And all these people wanting employees and stuff like that. No, I've had employees. I've managed employees. I don't want employees.
Right.
because and I'm not saying that they're bad people or anything, they're going to be bad people or not, but life comes up, and when you're trying to operate a business, your life is enough of a problem without having to deal with a bunch of people.
True.
So
I mentioned to tell guys a lot about my personal life, and this is the house that I grew up in, and I moved out my mother's home and whatever, and my mother was on hospice care for quite a bit of period of time, and we had put a hospital bed in the living room. And one of the things I picked up from one of the ladies that took care of her, and she was a Ukrainian lady, she said, Adam, everyone has problems, big, small, medium size. It doesn't matter if you're single, if you're married, if you're divorced, if you're rich, if you're poor, everyone has problems. They just have different problems. So like you said, you're managing your own problems. Right. So then you got to manage other people's problems and try to run a business.
And so, it gets to be, you just got to I don't know. I have yet to figure out how people that have all these employees that are eBaying or Amazon, and they've got to make a lot of money to pay all those people, even if they're using these people offshore and whatnot.
True.
And
Yeah.
I just don't want to do that. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Well, that's why I admire some people like everyone knows that I moderate for Casey the Rockstar Flipper, and basically Casey does like 98% of the business.
Right.
He has Caitlin, his fiance, helps a little bit. At one point, he was employing Caitlin's sister. I think he said just recently because he's doing a lot of bulk buying now. We'll get into that a little bit later. We discussed a little bit about bulk buying. But he bought some bulk buying. He was using Caitlin's sister to help with that. But it's amazing. And I guess these people have endless energy. I know Casey, he sleeps like 4 hours a night. And granted, Casey's, I think, is like 32 or 33. So it's not like he's in his 50s or 60s. But like you said, and again, managing people. I mean, I know I wasn't in high management. I was assistant manager at different places. And right. I was never like the boss.
Right.
So, and then even things like I would work in part-time, retail at a supermarket on weekends, and I had issues with employees. And one guy like physically threatened me, and it's like because he was spending his time. I was in a supermarket, and I was like walking the floor and stocking, make sure everything was done. And I passed like this bakery like 3 or 4 times, and the bakery woman and this guy were talking every time I went by. So finally, I said, I'm thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. I got to say something. So I said something to the guy. Basically, he threatened me with violence because I told him to get to work. It's like, what is with people?
I did some part. My first stint with retail was working part-time for Staples after I retired from the company. And I didn't like being a flunky.
Well, that's what happened to me. We get into a little bit in the pre-chat interview, but I told you I was basically very underemployed. I had like 25 years experience in the wine and liquor industry, and I was a glorified clerk, and that's where I got hurt. So I didn't enjoy that. But as I told you, I was using that to try to network into something better, and it just never happened.
Well, that's the thing, and the young people that's in this group that's listening, I looked for other positions in the field that I had been in, and I was used to doing everything.
Right.
I would do courthouse researching. If our bookkeeper was pregnant when she had her baby while she was gone, I did the books. I did the payroll. I did everything, and I would apply for jobs. And first of all, they would see the gray hair, and one guy told me, he says, "We probably can't afford you." And we hadn't even talked about money or what position it was at. And I told him, I said, I'm one of these kind of guys that you hire me for this job, but if something comes up and I need to do something, I need to take care of something, then I don't have a problem with doing it. Like when I was working part-time for Staples, I was worked in their tech department, and but if I needed to run back there and clean the bathrooms real fast, like that didn't bother me.
Right.
That was just part of the job.
Yeah.
And
especially, I mean, not to disparage younger people, but they don't get it. I mean, it's
you just got to get out there.
But you got to do it. If somebody tells you,
you got you guys that are either involved in this or investigating doing reselling. When you're young, you got lots of energy. You can get by at 5 hours of sleep a night.
Right.
I've said this before, over and over and over again. At 9 o'clock at night, unless I'm on a show somewhere or hanging out with some people just talking, I'm ready to put my feet up and start read a little bit and then go to bed.
Or watch YouTube.
Or you watch YouTube, which is the thing.
And sometimes I'll put on my friends' videos and I'll put it on. I'll have it like on the nightstand next on my laptop next to my bed. I figure, well, even if I fall asleep, they'll get the watch time. Fall asleep.
That's it. But really, if you really like doing this kind of stuff, then while you've got all the energy, you need to hit it hard.
You're right.
Because
I wasn't promised.
I got it this morning with a headache. Have no idea why. I guess I slept wrong. I don't know. And so you just got to take advantage of what it is, and especially if you've got young. You think about having kids or whatnot. Daycare is expensive. This is
Right.
an opportunity to get away from having to spend all this money letting somebody else raise your children. So anyway,
I discussed that previously on my show, and I've had guests on like Rosie Crystal. I mean, she has an autistic son, so she could be home with him and homeschool him and be there. You know, he needs her.
right.
And we have other people that had medical issues or physical or emotional issues or and especially like she said, or their parents that need to watch their children. They don't have the money to pay for daycare, so they do this part time or full time, but they can be home and they can shuttle their kids back and forth to activities, and they have medical issues. They can take them to the physician or take them to preschool, whatever. It gives you a lot of flexibility.
You mentioned the lady that was from Ukraine. My oldest son was born in Russia.
Okay.
And my twins that are 10 months younger than him, they were born in Ukraine. So our 3 boys came into our family through adoption.
Okay.
From foreign countries. But yeah, like I said, you guys that are young, y'all need to go ahead and just kill this thing here while you can. Because one of these mornings you're going to wake up and you're going to look in the mirror, or you're going to roll over and look at your spouse and go, who is this old person?
Not looking at yourself when you go in the mirror.
Yeah, because time passes by so fast.
It does.
And I'm the world's worst about it, because I'll say I need to do so many listings a day and I never get around it because other things get in the way. Right. But you guys need to rock and roll it now, because you're going to wake up in 15 years has passed by and you're like, what did I do with all my time? So
then you said you got involved with Staples, working part-time once you left the family business. I guess it was just to do something. You wanted to keep yourself busy, or
yeah. And I was,
you were still doing reselling part-time then?
Pardon me?
Were you doing the reselling part-time then as well?
Yeah, I was doing some. I had already been doing some, and I've been going to storage auctions. I guess my biggest about a month after I became retired, I went to an auction and I bought, I don't know how many of you know what it is, but it's a map stand. And what it is there's an aluminum strip here and it's got 2 little crypts, and you could stick like maps up into it and you lock it down. And then there's this one had the one that was free standing in the floor. So you just set these things down in it, these racks, and then you could just pick it up, pull it out, and you could look through it. I went to an auction and nobody knew what it was.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what it was.
I bought the whole shebang for $2 because they kept saying, "Who'll give you 5? Who'll give me 5?" And nobody. I said, "I'll give you 2," and he's like, "Sold." And I ended up selling it to an engineering company here in town for about $1,400.
Wow, good for you.
And
I mean, people. I don't typically ask this question, but I had it in the back of my mind. Was that one of your biggest flips?
That's the biggest flip.
The biggest flip.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, off of one deal.
Nothing wrong with that. 7 times your money.
Yeah.
We're not talking 2 to 14. We're talking 2 to 1,400.
And that's because I had some knowledge of, because the office down in my brother's office, we had just bought a bunch of those things, and I actually called him to see if he wanted to buy them, because I'd have just given them to him for what I had in it,
right,
and a little bit, but we had just spent like $6,000 on all kinds of maps, because he still does do a lot of construction staking, so they have a lot of blueprints and things like that. But I also was doing the Staples thing, because I wanted to learn more about maintaining stock and inventory control,
okay,
and all that kind of stuff. And so it was also a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the manager that of the store that hired me, I told him, I said, I'm not afraid to do anything that's legal, that you need me to do in the store, because I'm also using this as a learning experience, because I had no resale experience at all. And so, dealing with trucks, dealing with pallets.
You're receiving as well. Yeah, sure.
We did receive. We did everything.
Okay.
I mean, you had to.
Yeah, we had to do receiving. That was hard work. Especially the one liquor trucks. They're like 6 foot off the ground. You got to hop up into the truck half the time, and then you get up there, and how do you get down?
We would get.
One time I had to have a forklift come up because I was on my problem with my Achilles. I couldn't get off the darn truck. So you got to bring something up to get me off. They brought a pallet up. I stood in the pallet, and it's like, that was the beginning of the end when that had to happen.
And we would get with liquor bottles. I mean, liquor and wine stuff like that. It's packaged a certain way,
right?
But we would get pallets coming in, and they would have like chairs, in the boxes, and then they would have big boxes of paper stacked on them. The copy paper.
Right.
So the boxes of the chairs were collapsed.
I love that when they pack pallets.
So it was leaning to the side, and it would be like, there's like 5 of us trying to get this one pallet off the truck.
At least there wasn't glass. I mean, I've seen that with wine and liquor and the way they pack the stuff. Are you serious?
It was insane, but and then I did some and I had a manager that liked to be a manager but didn't like to be a manager, and because I was the oldest person there, and I kind of like took responsibility for what I did, and
you were kind of like manager by default because he or she didn't want to manage people, right?
The day that the loss prevention guy came in and called me into the office and said, "Why is your name on all these returns, or my number?"
Right.
And I said, because the store manager didn't want to come up. She'd say, "Go ahead and return them." And I said, if you look down in the notes, you could see that it says, "By the authority of the store manager," and the person's name. And but the manager liked to stay in their office all the time.
Right. And
I was being manager, and I wasn't getting paid to be manager, and I didn't want to be manager. And so, I kind of, the day that the loss prevention came in there and was quizzing me, I was kind of concerned about it. And not too much longer after that, then I left.
Right.
And then I started doing some merchandising. And I did the merchandising for 2 reasons. I want, once again, to learn more about, inventory control and how that kind of stuff works. And I also wanted to learn about, I also wanted to have access to clearance.
Okay.
I'd go into stores.
Merchandising for what company?
It was a company called Spar. I don't know if they're still here around.
Okay. So they subbed out for the various companies, or?
Yeah, they did like all the plastic wrap and stuff like that, Reynolds and stuff like that.
Okay.
I might go in and reset stuff like that.
Okay.
So they work for them. If you go into like Family Dollar
products,
pardon me,
grocery type of products.
Not too much grocery. It's more of like I said, like the toilet paper and that kind of stuff. But also like one of my quarterly jobs was if you go into like a Family Dollar or Dollar General, they have either the pay track phone type display, going and updating it, doing inventory, and those damn gift cards. I would have to go in and I'd have to count all the gift cards that they had in the store. And what was amazing for that was they would carry gift cards that we didn't even have that store in this area. You'd have to drive 2 hours to use the gift card, which I guess that's okay if you give it to somebody that's far
away. Yeah.
So, and I did buy a lot of clearance, and I knew a lot of managers, and I would go in there and, and I would pull stuff off the shelves, and we would do the scanning that they had to do to correct their inventory. And then I would say, like, what are you going to sell these for? What's the price?
Try to get a jump on it before they put them on clearance.
Yeah, I would buy, and I'd say, just let it sit right here. I've got to finish what I'm doing.
I mean, we talk about networking, network with the various store managers. I mean, we could do that. People in the chat, myself, could do that. I know people do that with some of the thrift store managers. They become friendly with them, and maybe they get early access to some of the product.
And one of the good things about meeting, I got to meet. I did a lot of work in Walmart.
Okay.
If you've the celebration balloons, the happy birthday, graduation, all that kind of stuff. I would go in. Part of my job was I'd go in and I would fill up so many of those and put them up for display and whatnot. And I got to know a store manager really well because he was a real stickler about his store. And I went in there one day, and this was after I left Spar because they went through a bunch of changes, and a couple of their major clients changed the way they did things, so they didn't need them. So that was a good time for me to bow out. But anyway, I was in this one Walmart, and I was looking at clearance, and I had filled a buggy up with clearance stuff, and the store manager walked by and he says, "You here to do some balloons? I need some balloons." I said, "I don't do that anymore. Call the company and find out where your person's at." Anyway, he says, he asked me what I was doing, and I told him I was buying this stuff. And I said, "I'm frankly, because we have I think we have a good relationship, I'm going to resell it." He said, "And?" I said, "Well, I just want to let you know, I hear that a lot of Walmart managers get real kind of bent out of shape when you start talking about you're buying their clearance to resell." He said, "Let me tell you what, if you want everything on this aisle, I will go get a couple of people to bring some buggies up here, and they will help you load it up, and we will go up there and we will ring it up and we will take it out to your vehicle."
That's great. I've heard of stories where people make relationships with store managers, and they'll discount that.
Yeah.
Somebody looked at it and say, "Can you do anything better with the price?" He goes, "I'll tell you what, you buy them all and I'll give you this price." Or
well, that's the way he was.
You can say, right? No, I can't. No, I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you're going to a yard sale or a garage sale, you can always offer less. What's the worst they can say? They either counter or they say, "No, my price is firm." I mean,
and if anybody ever gives you a hard time, yeah. If anybody gives you a hard time at Walmart, ask to speak to the store manager. And remind them that their bonus at the end of the year is based on what goes out of that door that's paid for. Because that's what that manager told me. He says, "I don't care if you can come in here and buy stuff off my regular shelves and you can turn and sell it for profit." He says, "I don't care. I just want it out of here. Because at the end of the year, they're looking at my numbers, and the more crap that goes out of this store that's paid for."
Right.
He was in kind of in a dodgy area.
Okay.
He said, "That affects my bonus. That affects my bonus." And he said, "So I don't care what you do with it. That affects my bonus. So just remind them." Yeah, there's some of them that, that's what their clearance is, and they don't. Right. He was talking about their clearance. Because they have so many, they have clearance dollars. And
I've been busy with your cat. What's her cat cleaning herself? And I keep getting a shadow.
Yeah, she's over here standing.
He's going up down.
Yeah, that's her over there. She's.
Well, by the way, we didn't get into that. I know you have a cat. Is it one? You have several cats, right?
Yeah, I have two. This is my co-host, Roxy.
What's it?
Roxy, Roxie.
Okay.
She's my baby girl. I don't have any daughters, so she's my sweetheart.
Okay. It's like shadow and shadow. It's like, wow, I'm getting.
She's back on me. And then I have another one that you never see because he's
more shy.
He gets up, he eats, everybody goes off and does what they have to do, and he goes back to bed, and he lays on our bed all day.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So their dollars.
I learned that in sales. I learned that when I was looking for work. It's all about relationships and networking. I mean, it doesn't hurt you to say hello to someone or what's the worst they can say? They ignore you. Hi, I'm Adam. Hi, I'm Thom. Nice to meet you. I mean, you have to shake their hand. It's like,
even if you go to, even if you go into a store, whatever store it is, and you go to a certain area a lot, and you see the same person.
Clerks. I mean, I make friends with the clerks. I go to Aldi. I mean, because I tell people reselling is kind of a lonely business, and I live by myself, so I'll become friendly with the clerks. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. You never know. Maybe someday they'll say, "Oh, I know you do reselling part time on eBay. We got a great deal on such and such." You never know.
There's a young lady that I buy stuff for. Actually, I buy it and donate it to the school that my boys used to go to, which is a little private school. When they get stuff like school related clearance stuff, at a good price, she always, if I go in there, she'll say, "Hey, let me go show you. Let me show you what I got over here."
Great.
Because usually it's a good price, and I'll buy everything they have, and it immediately goes. I drive up to the front of their school and go in, and I tell the secretary to page the headmaster of school to come up there. I have some stuff for him, and he comes up there and looks what he has, and then he gets on the PA system and says, "I need 4 high school volunteers to come up to the front." But yeah, you do stuff like that, and I mean, you just get to know people, and there's certain rules. Like there was a manager of a Family Dollar that I did work for Spar for. Plus, I bought a lot of stuff or clearance from her. I would take her out to, there was a restaurant next door. We'd go over and have lunch. I'd buy her lunch, that kind of stuff. There's certain companies that have really strong rules about that kind of stuff. So you have to be careful about that. But, just be nice to people. Even if they're being really butts, just be nice.
Now, I'm sorry, you said you got way back into reselling, and was it 99? I think you said it was.
Yeah, it was 90.
No,
let's see. It'd been about.
The date's not important. Just a very long time ago.
Yeah, it was like right when.
What got you involved in reselling? What got you into eBay? eBay was your first platform, right?
Yeah, because I wanted to make some money. I mean,
you were working for the family business at that time, and you wanted.
Yeah, I was still with them. But the economy is going up and down, and plus, Roberta and I were talking about adopting children.
Okay, so you would have additional expenses. So you wanted to generate. Any particular reason why you got involved with eBay or with reselling, or just
there was a book, and I was looking to see if it was up there, and I can't remember what the name of it is. Oh, here it is, right here. No, that's not. That's a Star Trek book. Anyway. It was a book about, I can't remember who wrote it, but it was a book about online opportunities, about ways to make money online. Okay. And it was it's a hardback book. It was a real book. Okay. And one of the sections was about eBay. And he was talking, because he was talking about.
And eBay was in back then in the late 90s.
Right. He was talking.
They still had it was all auctions, and I guess they had checks and and money orders and whatnot.
Yeah, we get checks in the mail.
Right.
Checks in the mail, and you didn't ship it until the check came in.
Sure, it cleared.
Yeah, and but this book had an article about it, and he was talking about people buying. People buying parts or whole items and breaking them up into parts and selling them. There was some person that bought like little music instruments, knickknacks kind of thing, and they sold them. And I thought, well, if they can do it, I can. The first thing I ever sold on eBay was some little porcelain tea sets. Little miniature tea sets that I got from the Dollar Tree. And I mean, I sold them, they were like $8-9, including shipping and stuff like that. Right. So I didn't but I know that was the very first item I sold was that.
Okay, you remember that. That's kind of neat.
So now. Did
you have any family members or any? You just happened to stumble upon that book and said, "Oh, I can try doing this to make money."
Yeah.
Okay.
And I started doing it. And
did your parents go to flea markets or anything back in the day, or just
no?
It was just chance that you came upon this book and decided to do it.
I've always been a book, and Tara is in the chat, Jim and Tara, so she's going to laugh. I was always big into buying books and usually they were at the clearance store,
right,
about real estate and all that kind of stuff. Now I was involved in real estate, so I knew a lot about it. But years ago, a buddy of mine from one of the books, we bought a little house. Well, it had 6 bedrooms, and
Little house with 6 bedrooms.
yeah, we sold it. We sold it to a company that they did like boarding houses around universities,
Okay.
because Winthrop University's in Rock Hill, and we fixed it up and actually had at least rented out, and they came in with a number that we couldn't turn down. And so anyway, I was looking at other books like that, and
Right, you're looking for
I stumbled
side
across this book.
side hustles, what they called it
Yeah,
back in the day,
side, they call it
part-time
side
jobs.
hustles now, but you
Right.
know,
I was told by Valerie the gig economy. I don't know what that means, but she says it's called the gig economy now, not side hustles. It's like, okay.
yeah, I've heard that expression, but I don't really know what it means.
I
But
say side hustle. I guess it's just the new slang for side hustles. So,
but I most of my stuff now, I mean, I do source from stores and stuff like that.
I want to get into that as far as the sourcing, and maybe you can give us some tips. And I know we had talked prior that you do one-offs, and you don't have any particular niche or what you look at.
Yeah.
One that you source, you told me you do auctions, which is kind of neat. I want to get involved in auctions, learning about auctions, and you do thrift stores. So how do you thrift, and do you have any kind of tips or any kind of
I go into stores, and something catches my eye, unless I've specifically heard another eBayer talking about, buy this.
Right. Somebody else mentioned the bolo, right?
But it's, it's all they're one-off type things. And,
right.
Then I'll check and see what it is, or I'll buy it. And I have made some mistakes because
we all have.
well, this was a bad mistake that cost me a lot of money. And it shouldn't have. Well, it cost me a lot of potential money.
Okay.
I went into a Goodwill, and they had a box of Mary Kay stuff, like cases that apparently you can buy like little things with like certain blushes, and then you stick them inside of these compacts, and you can switch them out. Well, they had a bunch of them, and they were wanting like $1 a piece for them, and I bought like 4 or 5 of them, and
4 or 5 pieces.
4 or 5 pieces of them, yeah. And they were making $4 or $5 off of them, but I had like 5 of the same. I had like 3 groups of 5 of each one of them.
I love multiples, yeah.
So, before I paid out, I thought to myself, I should ask how much they want for the whole bunch. And because anything that says Mary Kay on it's expensive, so but I didn't. And then I got home and I started listing them up, and within 24 hours they started selling.
Right.
So I immediately ran back to the thrift store, and it was all gone. And so now it's like I really need
going the other way too. You could have bought them all and got stuck with them. So I mean,
at least I could have given them away.
Yeah, that's true.
Or found some Mary Kay resellers, see if I could do a deal with them.
I'm sure that's what happened. Probably a Mary Kay that got out of the business, and he or she just donated them.
But I like storage auctions, which I know you were talking to Kimmy a couple last time. And
how often do you actively do storage auctions, or you just?
I usually pick up a couple a month, but they're cheap.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like $10, $20, $30.
Like Kimmy and I were discussing like that, what the 10x5s and 10x10s.
Yeah.
Does it matter to you? Will you get involved like a 10x30?
I don't want. I don't have the vehicle to.
Right, that's what I want to question. Sure.
And I don't have the place to store stuff like that.
Okay.
So I like the little crappy ones, like she was showing. When y'all were looking at the videos, that had stuff thrown all over the place.
Right.
For $10. Yeah, I spend a lot of time sorting and cleaning out somebody's storage unit, but I have found some good stuff buried under that. I mean, I know I probably sold, I don't know, $3,000-$4,000 worth of Nikes I found out of them.
Oh, really?
And I'm assuming that they're real Nikes,
Right.
because it says Nike on the side of them.
Sell those online, or you sold them locally?
I sold them on eBay,
Okay.
and I sold some locally through like OfferUp or one of those.
Right. Facebook Marketplace. Or
And I found some stuff in one of them that I did not think. I thought I was going to be just helping this guy out, cleaning out the storage unit. And it was like 5 action figures from a 1,000 chops or 1,000 murders or something like that. It was one of those off the wall murder slasher movies. And the sucker the box was all beat up and all this kind of stuff, but all the characters were there and all their accessories were still in the box. And that sucker went for like $130. And that paid for, I only paid like $20 for the bin. So I go treasure hunting, and now when I say treasure hunting, I'm not like talking about, finding gold or coins or stuff like that.
We talked about dumpster diving. We're not hopping in a dumpster. Not you.
I am not getting in. My fat butt is not getting in a dumpster. Okay.
See, when I was younger, I was joking. I was last week or the week prior. So I probably would have hopped in a dumpster, hit my head on a dumpster, and knocked myself out. A trash truck probably would lift me up and dump me in the trash truck. I said, no, I'm not doing dumpster dive. I'll pull off one of the side doors and look in the side door, but.
So I don't.
Funny because you're talking about that. I was near Staples and I stopped at a Burlington coat factory. I didn't get this, but I was always looking for clothing, whatever.
Right.
The season clearance. So I drove behind a dumpster. Behind they have a Staples and they have a Petco there.
Right.
So of course I drive behind this thing and I see a police car. I said, "Oh, you got to be kidding me! I can't get a break." They have a transit. They have a train station there.
Right.
It was a transit cop. I don't know if he was on lunch or he was just hanging out, or I don't know what he was doing, but it was a transit cop sitting back there. So I just, didn't even stop, just kept on going.
I would love to have the resources. The biggest thing is, and everybody that buys storage lockers, no, you got to have some place to put all that crap that you take home with you.
True.
And
I'm much about disposing of it. I don't think I just pile it up my backyard or do a dump site and who wants to put that stuff? It's garbage and trash. You want to put that in the back of your SUV, or if you have a truck, it's one thing. You can always hose it out.
Right.
If you have a car or an SUV, or I know Kimmy was talking about, she has a Subaru. It's like, that stuff leaves a mess and smell. And it's ugh.
Yeah.
Not that I'm prissy, but it's like, how do you get that? I guess you can put like plastic down or something.
I can't remember. Is it Resale Rabbit? He buys everything, but he's got this big, nice.
Where's a warehouse there?
Yeah, that big warehouse. I would love to have something like that because I could probably fill it up with $10 and $20 storage bill because people don't want to mess with it. They see
have a big warehouse facility too, right now. Roots.
Yeah, and people don't want to mess with it because they don't think anything's in it.
Right.
But you find a couple of
huge unit. People are kind of scared by it,
Yeah. So you have to deal with all that kind of stuff. I also like govdeals.com.
Yeah, what was it called? Something before that. It was Gov something, right?
I don't know what it was before that. I only know it as govdeals.com.
Right.
I like it because I bought some. And I'm always looking through it, and when I look for like manuals for automobile repair manuals and that kind of stuff. And if I find stuff that's like in Ohio, on Valerie Chick Picker's show in the morning, and I say, by the way, does anybody live with it, nearby this town? Because Gov Deals has got some auctions for a pallet of repair manuals or this, that, and the other that, normally you can see some pictures of the cover. So I kind of compare it and see if it's worth it or not. But I bought a lot of stuff I bought a lot of brass plumbing stuff from, oh,
really?
From fixtures from City.
Brass plumbing supplies.
Yeah.
And you resell them on eBay?
Yeah, I resell them on eBay. And then, but I bought those locally. And then on a fluke, they had the University of Idaho was selling off a bunch of stuff, and they had a lot of slides, and these slides are from the 70s, and they're professionally taken. It's like this one's called Silk Textile Fragments. There's a lot of Middle Eastern stuff in there.
Is this something pennies on the dollar? Is that why you just grab them for?
Well, no, it actually cost me more than that. It was like $25 for the auction, but then I had to pay
Premium and
a guy locally up there to go pick it up and ship it to me. So that cost me about another $75. But
okay.
I sell them in packs of 10s, random photographs. I've scanned them, and then I put the scans in there, and then I also take one.
Would you have like a multifunction printer that you scan it?
This is not it, but I have something similar to this thing.
Oh, okay. I wasn't even familiar with that at all.
And then I lay them all face down on a printer, and then I copy it or I scan so everybody can see what's on the face of them. And I think they're like $12.99.
Okay.
And
so I know people pick up slides and different. I wouldn't even the postcards. I know people are big in the postcards.
The only reason I bought them was because, like I said, because they were from the university, and they were from the early 70s in the Middle East. They have pottery, and then they have buildings, architectural, and stuff like that. And there's.
I'm thinking of it. Do you use the global shipping program at all with eBay?
No,
you don't. Okay.
And that's I need to. And
I need to also. I actually attended one of the seminars, and it's like, dummy, it's not that difficult to do it. Just you sign up for it.
I would like
you would call me a dummy.
Yeah. Well, hey, it is. I'm sure I'm missing out on a lot of stuff.
I was just thinking that the Middle Eastern, it might be people that from other countries that would be interested in that kind of stuff.
This one guy wanted a certain packet, and he actually paid me to overnight them to him.
Really? Okay.
Because he was a professor in California, and he was actually doing a presentation in a couple of days.
Oh, nice.
On some of the architectural buildings that was in one, and he says those buildings don't exist anymore.
How about that?
They were blown.
That's kind of like a side thing. It's interesting when something like that happens.
So it's and I've picked up some like I said, repair manuals and stuff like that. And I've driven
the decent amount of thrift shops right in that area, the Charlotte area.
Yeah. Oh God.
What would you say? I mean, again, I don't need a precise number. What would you say as far as percentages, as far as thrift shops? And I guess you have a limited yard sale season too there, right? Maybe 3-4 months, maybe 5 months.
We have some during the winter, but not too many. Because we don't really have, we don't have 32 below zero like Nikki does, the popular pick.
Right. But we basically have like 3 to 4 months max here because the weather's crazy in the summer and it gets really hot. And in wintertime, who wants to go out in November, December? You have house sales or estate sales, but you don't really have yard sales or garage.
We only have about 25 thrifts, like Goodwills, that type of villages.
Is that the largest percentage that you do? Is I know you said you do auctions, you do garage storage auctions, you do regular auctions, and is that the largest percentage of your business is thrift stores?
It is. I would like to do more from because with my storage lockers, a lot of it just I wash all.
You don't have the trucks or the means to do it.
Yeah, I take a lot of the stuff I take to either Goodwill or the Good Ladies Wear. I take to that's not sellable, as far as the brands just doesn't sell, why not? I take it to, there's an organization that helps women get set back up, they're homeless or that kind of stuff, and they're trying to get back into the workforce and whatnot. Great. So I take stuff up there to them, and they seem to be real appreciative of them because unfortunately, it's larger sizes. Hold on just a second.
Okay. Yeah, we got about 10, 15 minutes, guys. We're gonna have to finish up. So if you have any questions, if you can type them in the chat. I know Thom has to leave in a few minutes. So I was just going to get into that and let him finish up, and then we'll get into any questions they may have in the chat. We'll bring that up to Thom. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's all right. I know you're on a time constraint. You got about another 10 minutes, and you have to say
it's been a crazy thing today.
Right. So you do mainly thrift stores. Okay, so we'll kind of. I'm waiting for any questions in the chat. I discussed with you earlier. Do you have any tips or websites or apps that you use that could be unusual?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
No, I said, do you have any anything unusual that you do that tips as far as apps or websites? Or I know we had mentioned storage auctions. That's .net, I believe, right? And there's also a question about storage auctions. What do you look for when you're looking at storage units? Anything in particular that you look for that kind of catches your eye that you look for?
Stuff that was potential to sell.
I know some people say they look for one or two items that they can clearly see, and they figure that will pay for the unit.
Well, and the price point that I do is it doesn't take much to get, to pay for them.
Right.
So.
Okay. There were no any particular websites or apps that you use that are unusual that you could pass along that maybe you find that a lot of other resellers aren't using that might be helpful, or you don't. I always ask everybody if they have anything unusual, and every once in a while we get a couple nuggets.
Look for stuff. I mean, I try to look for stuff that is just strange.
Well, you said, you were talking about the drafting stuff and the main stuff, which I wouldn't know, but I mean, obviously that's unusual. I want to get involved in that too, going to some of these actually physical locations of auctions, because I hear people do very well at some of these auctions. A box of stuff for like $10 or something.
People, we used to have. They used to do piecemeal auctions here, and they would take forever because they would bring out like boxes of stuff, and they'd put it on a table and they would start auctioning it off.
Right.
And so you got a more in depth of what was being in the storage. Now, like furniture, if like it was a chest of drawers, they just brought the chest of drawers out and said,
"Oh, okay, yeah, that's too
whatever's
much.
in it is included."
Okay.
That type of thing. So, I just try to find stuff that maybe a couple things that'll pay for it. And like I said, I do the cheap auctions. The
try to do $20, $30, right?
Yeah. So a good pair.
You clean them out. You're not going to get slammed with the disposal fees or whatnot.
Right. And because I've bought some of these crappy storage lockers from the same managers. While I'm in there, I'll say, "Did anything not sell that you got to clean out?" And he's like, "All right, let me show you what I got."
Oh, right.
I've ended up cleaning out a couple other lockers that they were disposing of.
They take whatever you want.
Yeah, and I just
again, coming back to the networking and then talking to people.
So and I don't have to take off the trash or any of that kind of stuff. So,
Kimmy said, "Yeah, we're closing down in 5 minutes anyway." Kimmy, my friend Kimmy, Miss Borderline Hoarder, says head out. She's got probably have children issues there. She says she has snow already. She's out in Colorado. She has snow already, 3 inches of snow.
Oh God, bless you, bless you,
bless you.
I watch a lot of other people, what they're buying and what they're selling to get ideas of what to sell.
Watch all the YouTube channels and look for bolos and make lists of things.
And
Paul, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I know we have somebody that's doing a reselling. Bolo is be on the lookout for. It used to be APB or All Points Bulletin. That's what people use in the reselling business now. Be on the lookout for. So it's hot items that I know you had mentioned about one of the Monopoly games now. Yeah. Is that going to be the Christmas item this year?
Yeah, the Ms. Monopoly. I've made a point of going, and they're still selling fairly.
What's the other one? Millennial was last year, right?
Yeah, the Millennial was the one that Scott Bearded Picker knocked out the Daggum Park. I think they learned last year that that they needed to go ahead and produce more than they did, because
Right.
I've been going in when I go into Walmart's, I always go to the toy section, the game section, and see what's back there. And they're loaded up with Miss Monopolies, or at least in my area, they
That's
are.
like too. You go in the aisles and see what they have stacked up on the floor, and then that's
Right.
a hot toy. I know Kimmy says she does that, and she'll watch movies. She'll go. I mean, Kimmy's leaving, but she'll go to a movie and she'll see what they're showing in the movie, or what new movies are coming up, and maybe
Right.
there's collectible things like from Marvel or something, and that movie's going to roll out. Or like, she'll ask her kids, what are your friends interested in? What are you guys seeing on, or Nickelodeon or whatever? And that's a tip too. One last question, because I know you got to get out of here. Wayon Picker was questioning about what about bulk buying, Adam? You had mentioned that before. Do you do any bulk buying? I know you said you were looking into doing some liquidation.
I've gone to look at I've just gone to some places that have the pallets and looked around.
Right.
I'm just not manning up enough to pull the trigger on that yet. I've been
talking earlier. I don't know what your first name is, Wayon Picker, but I was actually looking at the same site as Thom was. There's a local liquidator. What they do is something. And again, be careful when you buy liquidation, especially if you're new. Make sure you get manifested, which means basically a list of what you're buying. Don't gamble and take, because sometimes they'll just say we have home goods from Walmart. And if you've ever been to Walmart and you see the lines of people returning stuff, it's a nightmare. You don't want to just have a box full of stuff that's just all damaged, and who knows what's in there. You want to get something that's actually listed, and hopefully typically 20 to 30% of the items are unsaleable. If you buy on something unmanifested, you have no idea what you're getting involved in. So, I mean, I was looking, there was a My Pillow, a local liquidator was liquidating My Pillow. I guess it was one of the retailers bought a bunch of My Pillows, and I guess they got stuck with them. I don't know why pillows would be considered seasonal. I don't know. But the guy was selling a pallet of My Pillow body pillows.
I guess because they sell a lot of them at Christmas time.
I guess.
I mean, really. I mean,
maybe they were sitting there since Christmas, and then they just liquidated them. I don't know.
I don't know.
It was about $5 a pill at this point. So and then there's like 3 days left. So.
Yeah, Bridget, New York Picker.
Right. You mentioned her right after checking into that, right?
She bought one, and I think she ended up with a lot of non-sellable stuff out of it.
Right.
More than she anticipated on it. She needs to do a video about it.
Yeah, especially if you're new, guys, be very careful with unmanifested. I mean, I used to watch a lot of these video channels. I used to be a moderator on one of the liquidation shows for like several years. Be very, very careful with it's really, it's just like it's like playing craps. You're just throwing your money out there and hoping, playing a lot, or you're hoping you get lucky. But even like I said, even with manifested or listed inventory, I mean, it could be damaged. A lot of the stuff is Amazon returns or Walmart returns, or a lot of people buy Amazon returns or Macy returns, but be very, very careful. And some of the liquidators are better than others, like Via Trading. They're mainly out of California, but they're a great company to deal with, a great liquidator. And also you can look into, you talked about bulk, BULQ. There's liquidation.com. So there are other liquidation sites, but just be careful, especially if you're new. You want to make sure you get something with a list or manifest.
If you want, if you want to get into that, the mystery box kind of stuff, there's a lot of different like sci-fi, that kind of stuff.
Right.
They have the boxes, and you get whatever you get. There's some of them that they show, like say September's box. They have some September's box left over, and it shows what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually got a couple of boxes coming that, based on the pictures and what they say is in it, it should be a pretty good profit off of the cost of it. And that's buying it too, because God only knows I don't need any more crap around this house. Buying them to sell the pieces off out of them, and right. they're like $25.
Okay, and they have shipping, obviously.
Yeah, well, some of them they have the shipping in with them too,
okay.
But
okay.
So yeah, just because
I know we're gonna need to wrap it up. That's one thing I want to mention before I forget, guys. Be careful too when you buy liquidation and you're in a residential area. First of all, you have to pay extra if it's being delivered to a residential area as opposed to a commercial area. And secondly, if you need a lift gate, in other words, if you don't, obviously, if you're residential, you don't have access to a forklift to get up into the truck and pull the product off. They have to have a lift gate, and they charge you extra for that. So that's an additional expense. So again, I know Thom has a time constraint here. We're right at 4:00. So I wanted to thank Thom for joining us. Are there any other additional questions, guys, do you have for Thom or myself? You can put them in the comments after the show. The broadcast will be up probably within an hour. I want to thank all you for being here. I appreciate it. I know you have other things to do, but again, I appreciate you guys being here. So please like, subscribe, share if you will, and comment in the comment sections.
Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. I really enjoyed it, Thom. I want to do it again.
All right.
Okay, guys. Thanks again. See you next time.
Bye, guys.